HDBs should not be viewed as lottery tickets.
But it is currently,
The government is trying to make it not by splitting up.
if you earn 15K, you only can borrow almost half. You only can borrow 800K. So you need to have plus stamp duties, 1 million.
Yep.
Then you shouldn't buy an EC, what? You go and buy private. EC let for poorer people to buy. Then I asked the question, why the government let the developer build a 1.7 million house for EC if it's supposed to be subsidized?
And then this subsidy creates the profit margin that
Correct.
makes it exciting for people like me. Like, hey, that's
Correct.
an opportunity
no, but nothing
there.
wrong. When the opportunity is there,
Yeah.
we should take it. But
Exactly.
then why is the opportunity created is the question we ask.
Yes.
Welcome back to the TFC Budget Debate. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and I think this particular debate is an important one. It's a part of the big concern of many Singaporeans. So I'm very glad to be joined with Dr. Sumit, coming in shorts.
I wanted to lower the mood and relax the mood for people.
Yeah. It's fine. For our audience that somehow didn't catch the episode that we did together, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Professor Sumit Agarwal at NUS Business School. I've written a couple of books called Kiasunomics, 3 versions of it. And we discuss a lot about Singapore's everyday life.
Yeah. And you did say before the podcast, I've been in this mortgage thing for 25 years.
Yes, I've been doing
low-key
mortgages.
flex, huh? Low-key, right? Yes, and we have industry friends in the show, right? So Baey and KY, for our audience that don't know you, can you introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me. So I always flex. I 15 years do mortgage, but then got winner today.
He 25 years,
around the same age, but he do longer. Right? I need to do business school masters. Need to ask him to let me get in, right? Yeah.
MBA from NUS.
So former banker, then started my own mortgage brokerage in Singapore called Mortgage Master, and that's why I think I'm here to share my views on the housing / mortgage.
You guys have been in the business for a while. So
7 years?
Congrats. Not easy. Last few years have been quite crazy across the board for the industry. I mean, not just you guys, right? So good that you're back. And KY, for our audience that don't know you, new CEO.
Hi. Yeah, I just joined Nanaiko as a new CEO. Previously, I was not into houses at all. I've never actually done anything else.
And it's not very convincing for the shareholder. It's like,
No. I'm sure. Like, they brought me because I bring new lands. And I think that's what my job is.
Yes.
But today I will take the view and the perspective of a layman.
Yeah.
So I'll share what I've personally gone through as a home buyer, homeowner, and I did refinancing recently. So quite qualified, I guess.
Fair. And probably peddle some house view from 99.co.
I will try.
Right. So it is what it is, right? So maybe for a start, let's just open up the floor on what happened this budget? Any interesting things that caught your eyes? Because I think the budget speech was especially short this round. There were not a lot of stuff, but over the course of the last 2 years, there were a lot of housing policies that came bit by bit, right? Plus Prime, and your MOP, all those things, they all started coming in, right? So maybe in totality from the budget and some of the newer policies, maybe we just lay the ground, what do you find interesting and all that?
So I think, it was expected. It's a 60th anniversary for Singapore. That's one. It's an election year. There are obviously economic concerns among Singaporeans. Cost of living is a big issue for Singaporeans right now. So if I take all of that in totality, we expected a huge fiscal stimulus coming from the government. The stimulus was big. I mean, it was massive in my mind. I would have expected it to be lower because the government doesn't need to. I mean, the economy is doing amazing. Singapore economy is growing at 3.5%. Inflation is low. Unemployment is very low. So by stimulating the economy, by giving the fiscal stimulus, we may overstimulate the economy and actually overheat the economy. That may lead to inflation and may lead to trouble ahead. House prices could go up. For consumers who are looking to buy, especially the younger people. It may be good for the homeowners because their houses have gone up. But I was expecting them to think about more long-term effect, which they did in terms of thinking about sustainability and technology. But there was a lot of front-loading of giving goodies to the Singaporean.
Yeah. So nothing interesting on the housing front.
Housing front was already, we have been doing a lot for the last 2 years on the housing front because the rental market has gone up in the last few years. And second, there was huge supply constraints in construction of HDBs. And that had caused the government to put a lot of brakes on housing. I mean, if you remember last year, the big uproar was, the big 60% rise for foreigners to buy properties in Singapore. Then I was thinking, but the foreigners typically only buy 4 to 5% of the properties anyway. So if you bring that down by 2%, are we gaining a lot? Not much, but I mean, there was some effect of that in dampening prices, or at least making sure prices don't go up by as much. So I think those policies are working. So housing was not a big issue this year. The big issue was cost of living concerns for consumers.
Fair. So maybe it's not just a volume game; it's a momentum game.
Yes,
right. So
it is a momentum game.
that's a different discussion, right? Not linear thought process. But yes, what about you guys, right? What are some interesting things like that caught your attention? Don't need to be just this budget, right? Because I think we can expand a little bit on like what's going on.
To be fair, I think it was quite boring. Again, election year, you expect them to give you goodies.
Okay.
Everybody talk about the property tax. Property tax is actually quite cheap. So it doesn't affect. So that is the inverse side. But you say last time, right? PUB water price increase. Also, it really doesn't affect people much lah. It's just that people make a big say about it. So property tax rebate, so what? To be honest, you save me 200 a year. You save private homeowners 1,000 a year. Well, they earn 200K, 300K a year. What's 1,000, right? So it doesn't shift the needle much. But the people who get most of the goodies are the low income, to be honest. The full influx, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of boring.
There I have to agree that they should be. I mean, giving rich people,
correct.
you guys, any money, more money is not helpful.
You already have 5 properties. Why you need so many
Exactly.
properties? Yeah.
Well, interesting that they carved out a bit nice one for companies. So that was related to me, right? If I need some subsidies from the government for mortgage master, because things are up and down for business,
For
right?
sure, for
So
sure.
I think that
Okay.
portion was the most interesting to me, but it's not for consumer.
Okay.
It's for
fair.
commercial
Fair,
corporates.
Fair. And KY, for you, tell me a little bit. I mean, like, if we can zoom into the property category, that would be good lah. Any interesting things? I mean, you guys probably cover a lot of this content also.
First and foremost, I'm surprised that budget really had very, very little content on housing.
Yeah.
Housing is like the largest cost of living sort of item that we have. I travel a lot, and when I look at around the world, sort of our cost on travel, cars and houses, the percentage of our spend on those two items exceed what makes sense to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that they didn't do anything about our single largest cost of living line.
I think we can categorize the type of property owners out there in the market. I do think there's a whole bunch of singles that will just kind of enter the market, at 35, right? So it looks like the demographic shifts are there, and it's going to be a thing. So we have people that are trying to enter the ladder, right? And then we have people that are already on the ladder, but they are mostly just looking at it as a home. And then there's, of course, the go-getter group, right? Which is like, okay, they were going to cycle through different properties.
The people who listen to our podcast.
So no, I mean, we do have a range, but there's a lot of people in that category. So they have a different set of concerns, right? So I think that's kind of the space that I would like to hear your point of view. So people that are not on the ladder, people that are already on the ladder, and then people that are trying to milk the ladder, right? So like, how would you kind of look at, based on their incentives, how is this thing going to affect them?
So I think this is good because my guess is the idea is to worry about the people who are not on the ladder in your language.
Yes.
And let's get them into the housing market, the younger people who potentially are getting married. There is a big push by the government, both to actually increase childbearing and actually increase the population. And government is giving a lot of incentives. And that incentives don't work unless you have housing there and you have a big housing supply. And so the government is saying, we'll provide housing, get married, have children, and we'll give you housing. Housing comes with a big subsidy in Singapore of $100,000 to $150,000 up front. I mean, you walk into a house, you have you're rich already.
Give away anything on the BTO supply coming in.
Okay, so if we look backwards, right? Before BTO scheme, houses were built and people bought and moved into them way quicker than now. So it was only after BTO was introduced that we had waiting times.
Yeah.
Now, I balloted, I think, 6 times and I didn't get a flat.
Horrible.
So horrible. Okay, also, just to be clear, I'm one of those guys that I want to optimize for profits, right? That's how I think about things. In the end, I stay in Punggol. I bought an EC there in 2020. I used to grow up in the East and I want to stay in the East. But for me, when I looked at the math, Punggol is the place that will likely make more money than other places in Singapore right now. So that's where I stay now. I have friends who are looking to buy houses. So for record, I'm 36 this year. I have friends who are getting married. I think they'll get married this year or next. And then they are getting houses now. I imagine by the time they're done with MOP, they will be 45.
Yeah.
So that's a significant runway shorter if you're thinking of asset progression.
Yeah.
But then when I think about Plus and Prime, they may just optimize for, I want to live in this nice location forever. And I really appreciate the government like taking out locations and building new flats in prime locations actually.
Okay. So this profit mechanics, somebody got to foot the bill, right? I'm very sad that I may be the one footing the bill. Right?
Why?
Buying in because I've broken the income ceiling. So I no longer
Qualify
for, a BTO.
Flex.
Neither do I. No, it's not a great flex because I'm not very much further. You know what I mean? Like I'm
sandwich class,
the weird bunch of people that just cross because there is always a line and I fall through the line and then like I'm like I don't have a lot of options. I end up looking at like studios in Geylang, right? Like that's kind of like how shit the options are relative to the HDB ecosystem. So I get priced out of the grants, right? And I don't get to get BTO, right? So I have to explore the resale market. And then I think there's a whole bunch of people that are like, oh my God, I don't want to be carrying your bag, right? That's your profit, right?
You are not
and then
carrying
I
your
gotta,
bag.
then I gotta. So no. So we're trying to
But at the same time,
understand
right,
this a
you
little
are
bit more,
self-employed, right?
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
pay
yeah.
yourself lesser, right?
Yeah, I know. So I mean that's a mechanics that if I need to, I will, right? So
Okay.
and then I can arrange it, in different ways, right?
But
so
not many people can.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So not
Yeah.
many people can, right? So I'm the anomaly. And based on the numbers, when I look at it, if a fresh grad today is coming out at 4 to 4.5 thousand median income, in the first 5 years, you'll be a little bit more strategic with your career. 2 jumps, 20-30% each, right? You easily break the ceiling, right? If that's the situation that we are preparing for, then we cannot be slow in adjusting the ceiling, You have a whole generation of laggards, in this system. And that's kind of
Or what the
how I
government
look at
wants
it.
is
Yeah.
stop lagging, get married earlier. lah.
Yeah. lah,
No.
which is,
Actually, it's not true. So I bought an EC in Punggol, right? I mentioned. Now, I bought it in 2020. I just did the math again. And the income ceiling was, I think, 16,000.
Yes, EC
The
is
maximum
higher,
loan
yes.
during those periods. So for good period during COVID,
30% MSR.
no, I paid sub 1% interest rates on it.
Yeah.
And at those flexi levels, the maximum loan I could get was like around $1 million. At $1 million of loan, we had to pay, I think, close to 500K cash to buy. And in my development, all the 3 beds were sold out. All that was left was the 4 beds and 5 beds. So since I couldn't get any ballots, I made the move and I bought this. So we coughed up the money, we bought the house. Not many people could have coughed up.
Of course.
Evidently because they were empty. Right. And then now, let's look at EC again.
This EC, what you are saying now,
Yeah. It's
when
worse.
in 2012, I already say, the person who can buy the EC penthouse using MSR calculation
Yeah.
cannot hit the income ceiling. You only can take 40% though. So last time EC penthouse, maybe 1.7 million. Now more expensive.
Yeah.
If you earn 15K, MSR is 30% for EC and HDB,
Yeah.
then TDSR is 55%. So you only can borrow almost half. You only can borrow 800K. So you need to have
Like
1 million
900K. Yeah.
plus stamp duties, 1
Yeah,
million.
yeah.
Then you shouldn't buy an EC, what? You go and buy private. EC let for poorer people to buy. Then I asked the question, no, honestly.
Wow.
Ask
EC, 1.5 million poorer people.
No, then I reversed the question. Why the government let the developer build a 1.7 million house for EC if it's supposed to be subsidized?
Yeah.
Not right already, ma?
And then this subsidy creates the profit margin that
Correct.
makes it exciting for people like me. Like, hey, that's
Correct.
an opportunity
no, but nothing
there.
wrong. When the opportunity is there,
Yeah.
we should take it. But
Exactly.
then why is opportunity created is the question we ask.
Yes. So
Yeah.
should it be adjusted upwards? My answer is yes. It must be actually.
No. But I think there is a benefit. We want people to be homeowners. Homeownership has huge benefits around the world. We know crime is lower. We know social capital is built. Children go to school. They become friends for life. So there are huge benefits. If we raise the prices, we'll price out a bunch of young kids out of the housing market. That will slow down family development. So giving this subsidy is actually a good thing. And the government kind of saying, okay, we will eat the money. We will pay for it ourselves. It's not, maybe some of it is coming out of your pocket, but most Singaporeans pay very low taxes.
Marginal.
So the taxes you're paying for this is marginal, okay? But the government is really paying for it, honestly. And the reason is they really think of the big picture, which is creating Singapore as a family-oriented city where people come and live, and we can say homeownership, it's a 95%. Where in the world can you go around and say homeownership is 95%?
Would you then say that instead of increasing the income limits, you're saying don't use MSR calculations?
No, I think keep the income limits for HDB because that needs to be affordable housing, right? Remove the whole EC scheme. It just doesn't make sense at all.
Let's come back to this income limits. We'll have to have some limits. Look, in life, everywhere we have cutoffs, okay? income taxes, we have cutoffs. When you go sales taxes, when you fly, everything, there is a price cutoff. We cannot say, let's remove all of it. Now you're saying, look, I just fall above the income cutoff, so it's unfair to me. Okay, but yeah, life is unfair in many dimensions.
I feel so sad. but yes, please continue.
Okay, so I think you just think about the guy who's just below the income cutoffs. How lucky that guy is.
Yeah.
And so there are two people who feel unfair. One is very fortunate, one is unfortunate, but it's a continuum. And there is a whole distribution below the income cutoff. They really benefit, and that's what we really want from a societal point of view, or from a social planner point of view, from a government point of view. Let's make the balance tilt towards who cannot afford.
Yeah. No, and I'm sure there's a normal distribution with some percentile somewhere that's being drawn, for this, right?
Yeah.
So from a very selfish standpoint, I'm trying to push the idea that maybe the wave is coming, the adjustments is coming faster than you believe, right? Because salary adjustment is market-based, right?
Yes.
It could come in a lot faster than the government can update its policy, right? So if that happens, then we could experience like a whole bunch of people that just ends up taking outsized mortgage, then they reduce their risk palette because all they can do is to stick up to their job, and just like, let's grind this out because I have a huge mortgage.
Alternatively,
me,
they can get married quickly.
Yeah.
And buy the house faster before they get priced out of the ceiling.
Do you know anyone who has taken that path and broken up? Like they didn't get married in the end? Because I know a few.
Yeah.
I have a whole chapter in my Kiasunomics books where we talk about people getting married and then getting divorced after that.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even that married and divorced. No, because to me, I read it as a BTO phenomenon, right? Because you make a decision today and this thing has to, got to wait 3 to 5 years before it comes. And then you guys move in and then you have kids in 2-3 years, right? So actually you're making a lot of decisions, stacked up at this time zone, like at this point in time. Right, so it actually makes that decision very complicated with a lot of facets.
Well, the government tried. They have a joint single scheme now.
Yeah.
So it helps.
I know some of my friends were like, hey, so how? I know you're complaining, want to join on?
I used to know your friends don't mind staying with you.
Yeah.
There are some people like, hey, we should join, but I don't really like the guy.
But, maybe we just buy. Right? Okay, so I think those are going into the very colloquial experience of, which is normal, right? Which we should talk about it, but from a structural standpoint, maybe I still want to hear a little bit from you about this, like, how do we manage this profit mechanics,
Yeah. I mean, the one thing the government has done, because they used to have this that you could sell it after 3 years. And then they realized a lot of Singaporeans were actually selling their property right at the 3-year mark and cashing out and either going into a private condo or kind of realizing I could go out on vacation and spend more. And they said, let's move this to 5 years. One way could be, let's push it slightly further to keep the people in the house and kind of reduce the profit incentive to buy the house. Then you think about the guy who's getting on the ladder and who's on the ladder and who's not the guy who's really trying to benefit from the ladder. And let's reduce those number of people. I think that's what we should do. If I think about in the future, what should the government do is say, look, we're going to raise this to 7 years. And that's a good idea because we want the house prices to come down. Because every time you're selling, this is actually affecting the housing market and house prices.
I'm not sure about 7 years, but I'm very sure the 10-year Prime Plus thing is affecting a lot of people's decisions. Right? Like,
really? Why?
I'm hearing all my friends are like, do I really want to like lock in for 10 years?
Wait, I have a comment about this.
Yes. Say.
Okay. HDBs should not be viewed as lottery tickets.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
fair.
my first point, right? Because
But it is currently,
the government is trying to make it not
Yeah.
by splitting up.
But
so,
you guys were very high in front, like this whole lottery ticket thing. It sounded like, whoa, we made this money.
No. So it is viewed as that.
yes.
And like I said, it's just fortunate. So I was in the bank and I was one of the better bankers.
Yeah.
At that year that I applied for the BTO with my wife, I just nice changed position. And that position had no, so I don't have commission. I'm a commission-based like investment, that kind of stuff, that kind of role. So that year my commission dropped. That year I apply. I purposely didn't apply the Bedok, the Tampines. I applied the Punggol because
You want to get it.
I want to get it.
Yeah, I see.
So I got it, I must take already because I 1% income ceiling break already. I don't need my wife.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that year had to get it and I got it. So fortunate, and I viewed it as a lottery. Although in this industry, I tell people you shouldn't. But when there's a lottery to take, you don't take, meh?
I love the argument. That year, my commission dropped. it was also the exogenous.
No,
It's not
it
that
was
you
God's
engineered
will.
it in a way to drop.
Yeah, no, really,
You
really,
can
really.
take a lesson from this.
No,
Yeah,
you see, that point of time, I cannot control that. This lady would be my girlfriend, want to marry. I could have been single, but not so. The stars aligned, the lottery ticket landed, and I had to pick it up.
I'm just
so.
complaining that it drops,
Yeah,
or you brought it down so you can come
No,
back.
it dropped.
Love it, love it. Yeah. But Kira, you're saying something?
Now looking back, right?
Yeah.
The reason I did this, right, was because if I don't take it, right, people like him are gonna take it. So I have to take it just to feel
Wow.
even, you know. If I don't take it, I'm falling behind.
So you know who is really subsidizing you guys? Is me.
It's me.
I don't qualify to get it. I pay high taxes and I subsidize you.
Yeah. No,
But then if I don't take it, someone else is gonna take
Exactly.
it.
No, so sometimes people will say that, oh yeah, you're trying to peddle the narrative that, no more profit, just homeowner, blah, 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 right? But I'm not blaming the individual, just to be clear, right? Because exactly like what you said, right? If the game is clear, you know what's going on, then, there is a game there for you to play, right? So it's very hard to say like, oh, you don't play, right? But from a governing standpoint, then you can adjust the levers, right? You can change the system, you can adjust the whole thing, and then probably kind of even out for more people, like ourselves, so clearly we're not as excited about this. Like,
just
we're not
nice.
making hundreds of thousands in this.
No, just nice the income
yeah.
drop. What?
No. Yeah, just to be clear, I'm not blaming you, and I don't think our audience should be attacking
Yeah.
you in any way, But it's just
No, please attack them.
But there's
No,
always,
I'm attacking him.
but you see, there's always a flip side, right? There's also the people like Reggie who, just nice my income rise. I cannot get the lottery ticket.
Okay. Where we're going with this, similar to what the government is trying to do, is 10-year prime plus,
Yes.
new supply coming in, adjusting the overall, even adjusting sentiments, right? Popping the bubble of like asset enhancement and slowly talking about like, 99 year will go to zero and then kena whacked by the public, right? So that whole shenanigan, it's a step-by-step move to try to probably manage this overall public housing situation, right? And I do think there's quite some consensus around it, like we want public housing to stay affordable, accessible to everyone. I think it's okay to have some profit mechanics so that you can shift to the next place, and, we can continue to experience that kind of stable, career progress and family progress, right? I think that's fine, but not like lottery.
So HDB should not be viewed as lottery tickets, right? And in the past, because there was only one system, which is the BTO system. If not, you don't play and you go on to you buy
Resale,
resale.
not much lottery.
Yeah, exactly. Not much lottery,
so
right?
Specifically, lottery is the BTO.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I don't participate in the lottery, then I'm definitely not making money, right?
Yep.
Now the government is saying, hey, here's prime, here's BTO. Is it still a lottery? It could be, because if you buy Tengah at a good price and then it goes up,
Yeah.
and then it's a lottery ticket. And then there are those who say, you know what? I want a good location. This is the price. I'll wait 10 years. And then, the future clawbacks. I know I'm not going to make, but you know what I'll be? I'll be happy.
Yeah.
No, but even that is a lottery.
Yeah.
It's just what they're saying is the lottery we are giving you is so big that we don't want it to be unfair to the other people who are getting a BTO.
Yeah.
And so we'll make it 10 years and we do clawbacks to make it kind of make the same playing field. There's no inferior and superior product we are giving. We are just making sure that then you can choose. And then consumers can realize, I don't want the prime.
Yeah.
Because one, I'm stuck for 10 years. Two, they're clawback.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'd rather take the other lottery, which is equivalent in money terms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now you can choose to do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I really think that people don't see 10 years as lottery because it's usually a bit undersubscribed compared to the other ones.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you think it's a lottery ticket, then more people will subscribe here,
Yeah,
which
so-
is not the case.
I mean, it's
No, because I think more people are myopic. They want things now. And they realize 10 years is too long. It's not they don't see it as a lottery. They just don't want to cash the ticket in 10 years.
Okay. It makes sense.
Look, around the world, many countries from America to France to Hong Kong, they have all tried this public housing. They've all failed. The only example where public housing has been successful, widely successful, is Singapore, primarily because of the way they've integrated public housing across the income distribution, racial distribution. Whereas if you go to France, if you go to, say, District 11 or something, it's all, foreigners, black people living there and different races, and they've never integrated. Income disparities are huge across these public housing. And so they all failed. And I think so we should give credit to the government when it's due that they have done an amazing job.
Okay, so we had a little bit of a talk on like what is the policy, how are things like, what do all of you think about this whole dampening profit mechanics, or like managing this lottery system, 10 years, all that, right? So those are essentially government parameters that are being set, right? So policies and all, but the market has its own forces, right? Like it or not, right? So maybe just to paint a little bit of color for our audience, right? Like, what are you seeing in the overall property market? Maybe also in mortgage, like, because mortgage is tied to interest rate, which is also not controlled by Singapore alone. So there's all these other things. Maybe we can start with the market first. Like, where do you see the property market forces moving? Going forward, are there certain areas or certain things that you think are interesting for our audience to understand the overall property market?
Let me tell you my personal opinion. I never believed that prices will get to where they are now. If you ask me, I would never say like this makes sense. When I made decisions, I made it around the fact that CCR is 2005, it'll get to 3000. I accept. Right? If you tell me CCR 4000, I don't agree. Recently on a Sunday, I did X value with my dad. We sat at home and we just X value my dad's house, my friend's house. We just go through it. I found out that the property profit margin since 2020, so 5 years in, 3 more years MOB to go, is like 600K. And I'm like, oh, that's a big lottery ticket for me. So I asked my friends who sold their ECs. I found out there was a person who sold it for 800K profit. And then we have houses being sold for like north of 500K. So then I realized like prices are going up. But where will they end? I have no idea how it's going to be. So if you ask me, I actually think that this is high. I think real wage growth hasn't matched up. I wonder who can afford such properties. Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
After all these things, that have been set in, is this still going to be like the tune of the town? Is this still going to be what's happening? Yeah, I think that's what our audience want to know.
Unfortunately, I would always submit to Sumit. Okay, because you are the academia, right? But for me on the ground, so context, I own Mortgage Master. We do hundreds and hundreds of transactions, but I also own a subsidiary called Property Master, a property agency. So we see a whole range of transactions. Mortgage people see more transactions than property agents. Firstly, demand, a 2-bedder, 1+1 bedder cannot sell today. These 7 months, 1.05 new valuation, best offer 970. But a 3-bedder will always be able to sell quite fast. Because today is a need-based product. Family wants to buy. Investment products, if market is not doing well, who's going to buy investment products?
I see.
Yeah, so it shifted that way. But you see, what is pushing the Singapore Property Index, right? Hype is real. And the housing agents know how to hype. So the new developments have just ultra hype. Will they tell you statistics which are bad? So the new one at Trump Park, right? Wow, hype, Trump Park, near this school, near this area.
Everywhere is near a school, everywhere is near MRT, everywhere is near a park.
Next to Chuan Park is...
Very true.
Next to Chuan Park is Chuan, but it's Chuan residence, I think. About 15, 16 years one. Then there's also Chiltern lah. So Chiltern Park not bad because it's very big. So it's old school people now want a big, they buy Chiltern Park. But Chuan residence, so anywhere in the past 5 years, mostly in Singapore, you take a stone and throw 30% to 40%. So 5 years, 40% is about 6-7% compounded inflation. It's okay, right? The one next to Chuan Park, 15%. So do the agents who are selling Chuan Park and hyping it say, hey, but our neighbor only 15% in the past 5 years? They won't say that. So it's up to you to do your own research to know. So you mentioned transactions just now. So the transactions are lesser. So doesn't increase as much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then why do people can buy so expensive houses? EC qualification. I am 32 years old. I buy a $2 million EC. Obviously, I don't have $1 million to pay, right? Father, mother,
sponsorship, yes.
Yeah, I stay in Bishan. Gimo. There is a enclave of landed property next to it.
Expensive houses.
And then if your father, mother want you to stay near them to see their grandkids, they pay. So I will give my mother credit. My mother not so rich. She still pay 50K for me to stay to Bishan because I wanted to go to McNair Road. She said, no, you can't Bishan near me. Mom, I know money for COV. I pay 50K for you. Doesn't cover everything, but she still offer because she wants me to be near her. Those richer than my mother one, 200-300K.
That's an interesting phenomenon.
Since she was already paying 50, why not you ask for 70?
Actually, she offered 80. Then the COV, I had a good deal. I told her 50 is enough. I love my mom a lot.
So I think, look, debating this idea of house prices. I mean, what scenario would we like in the world? We want house prices to go up.
Like you're a homeowner.
Look, majority of the people are homeowners.
You want it to go up regardless, actually.
The stock of the people, the stock of housing is owned with homeowners. But the flow of people who are buying new homes is very tiny. I mean, think about it. There are around 250,000 kind of homes in Singapore. No, sorry, these are private. Then if you look at the HDBs and you look at the landed is around 30,000. You add it all up, that's above 1 million. There are only 30,000 people born every year. Imagine those are the few 30,000 potentially buying every year. Out of that, maybe 20,000 buy. So the flow is very small. The stock is big. And you want the stock people who own these homes to be better off in life. The prices should go up. Okay. The only debate we are having is should it go up by 10% or 7% or 5%. Okay. Now, a lot that happens is because of demand and supply. There was huge pent-up demand out in the market because of supply constraints because of COVID. That's why it went up. Historically, in Singapore, prices don't go up like that. So this was an anomaly. The government tried to step in and correct it. So I don't think we should worry too much. The government is very cognizant because they are worried if prices go out of line, we would face something like America, like in 2006, 2007, a housing crisis or a mortgage crisis or a large number of defaults and delinquencies. But things can move very quickly in Singapore to fix that. Think about the two big parameters Singapore has, LTV and DTI. And those parameters are very tightly controlled, are in line to make sure consumers don't default or prices don't go out of whack here.
What's DTI? Sorry.
Debt to income and loan to value. And both of those things are set, like loan to income is set at around 60, 70%.
75.
Debt to income is also set as low. So it's not, they don't want consumers to be over indebted or buying properties where they have very little skin in the game. And that prevents us from seeing when prices go up a lot or go down a lot, there could be crisis. So I think in that sense, Singapore market is moving okay. We do see once in a while prices go up a little bit too much, but like 3,500 per square foot. Is that really alarming? Potentially it is alarming for some people, but why are you in that market? You're in the HDB market, in the BTO market. That BTO market is not even close to that number. And so that number is only applicable to foreigners or people who want to cash out their HDB and are looking, and then they should be willing to pay.
Yeah. So I want the BTO lah, huh?
Exactly.
So great. I think we got a little bit of color. Maybe last category that we want to talk about is mortgage, right? So I think a lot of homeowners are thinking about this, and the budget does not care about this, right? But the market cares a lot about this, right? So interest rates and all that. Maybe you want to start us off. Like, what is your view of the long-term interest rates? What's going to happen and all that?
So interest rates are obviously tied to inflation, what is happening to wages and all that thing, and the macroeconomy. And what we have seen is inflation has come down. And because of that, interest rate were higher because there was obviously COVID that kind of pushed the governments to kind of put some brakes on these things. But now we should expect going forward, interest rates to keep coming down. We are seeing this around the world. Inflation is down, or at least coming to a place where everybody is comfortable with inflation. The only thing is I want to separate out inflation with this cost of living jitters that people have. It's like this eggs that I buy or the chicken rice is still expensive, what it used to be. That doesn't not necessarily mean overall inflation is high. It's just, prices are sticky. When they're trying to come down, when raw material have come down, producers or final sellers at the chicken rice stand, he realizes, look, I moved the price up by 20 cents after like 4 years. Now I could reduce it by 8 cents, but I don't want to do it. Because if I have to raise it in the next 5 years, let me just keep it high here. Okay, nobody will care. And so we feel like, inflation is high. It's not necessarily inflation is high. Overall prices have come down in Singapore. So interest rates will come down. The long-term rates will come down. The short-term rates will come down. So homeowners should think about the following. If I'm going to buy a house today, let me wait a couple months. Interest rates may come down. If I'm refinancing, let me also think about not refinancing today, because if I refinance today, I will give up the option to refinance again if interest rates fall again. So in either case, I would say wait, watch the market. Let's see when interest rates settle in a month or two, then jump in to refinance.
Okay. So you have an underlying thought around interest rates coming down,
yes.
Right? So that is your position.
That's my position.
Yeah. Can you kind of expand on that? Like,
why?
Why do you think interest rates will come down?
Okay, so if we look at what is happening to the broader global markets, we are seeing in the U.S. inflation is down. The government in the U.S. is trying to push the Fed to lower the short-term rates. The Fed is saying, we are not going to touch it. We don't want to deal with it. We think inflation worries are still there. Trump government is trying to say, let's bring down the 10-year rate independently of the Fed. So go out and come up with instruments to buy long-term bonds, and this kind of pushes down the price. And that way, we kind of flatten out the yield curve, and then we bring down the long-term rates, and that will obviously have an effect on the Singapore rates as well. If you look at the supply of cash, money, banks are flooded with money, okay? And as rates are coming down, people will borrow more because now the ability for consumers to borrow is there. Home ownership will go up because now consumers can get loans at cheaper rates. So I think banks are waiting, and all of this, to me, what I see will be beneficial to consumers and the homeowners in the future.
Okay. So essentially, Trump is not happy with the Fed and he wants to create a facility to go into the open market and adjust the long-term rates. That's a theory. Okay, great. Your point of view on the markets, what's going on? Because you are day in, day out, right? You're on the ground on this thing, yeah. So what's happening? What's the juicy things and all that?
When I talk to my clients or I tell my consultants, you have to teach your consultants. There's a group chat for news and rates and what to arm ourselves with information because we are not salespeople, we are consultants, right? I agree with Sumit totally. But when we talk to mass market, we have to talk about conservativeness. So the first thing I would say is don't take a 3-year fixed rate because 2.5, 3 years fixed. By the third year, you pay 2.5, the market is below 2.
Yeah.
I dare to say it's below 2. In fact, if you take a news article last year in October, I said that by the end of this year, it's below 2 already. But then the tariffs from Trump come in, which is contradictory to a lot of things. Like there's reasons for those policies that Trump make to make interest rates rise. There are also reasons why the same policies make interest rates fall. So now people are uncertain. But based on interest rates, my own view is same. It should drop. And also because of patterns. So I believe as an investment person last time, economic cycles exist, interest rate cycle exists. It is actually a laggard to the economic cycle because, economic boom, interest rates is to rise to stop inflation. Economic recession, interest rates is to drop to boost money velocity and spending, right? So the cycle is here. The cycle is time to drop. And it must drop because historically, patterns always follow patterns. Things always happen for a reason. So COVID caused SIBOR, which we used last time, was 0.36, 0.4 for the longest time because QE, money, too much money in the market, right? In 2020 January, right, SIBOR went to 2%, FYI. COVID happened, that's why it dropped. So the rise should have happened in 2020, but COVID caused it to lag a bit. So it only started rising in 2022 again. So the next 2 years dropped. So that time was when you were having the sub-1 interest rate, right?
I remember it's like...
Yeah. I had SIBOR plus 0.1% or plus 0.2.
How you get plus 0.1? I got 0.5.
That's the reason why there's a company called Mortgage Master. That's why people use Mortgage Master.
Any longer, I'm going to send an invoice. Any longer, I'm going to send an invoice. Control yourself.
Okay. But in context, I have to say like, okay, what is my own interest rates, right?
Yeah.
So my view was it will rise. But on the interest rate thing that you mentioned, if refinancing, you should still do now. Because I explained this to clients, if interest rates go to crap after the second or third year, right? So if you kind of a floating rate now, 2.7, which isn't, it's even lower than that, you lose 1.2% a year, right? Which is 0.1% a month. You wait 2 months, then from 2.7 drop to 2.5. What's the difference to you? You wasted 0.2% to save 0.2% per annum. So actually, you do now or not, the difference is very minute because it doesn't drop 0.5% in 2 months, you see. But then you see, if you wait 1 year and then it drops 0.5%, you actually lost 1% because it's 0.1 a month you're losing. So refinancing, because if you're at a high, but if you want to buy, totally agree. It's just a maths problem now, right? Yeah, it depends on what rate you are sitting on.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for your time. And if our audience would like to connect with you, we can put all your links in the description below. Okay?
Thank you.
So with that, thank you. We'll see you next episode. Bye-bye.